यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रजन रंजन यमुनातीरवनचारी यशोदानंदन व्रजन रंजन यमुनातीरवनचारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we are reading from chapter 12, verse number 5. You can pull up your phone, you can search on Google, Vedabase. हाँ लेकिन राइट वन नोट का है, मतलब वो भी शेयर करना है क्या? कैसे होगा? ये वाला में नहीं लगता है मुझे. कृष्णा नहीं. क्लेशयोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहावाद्भिरवाप्यते क्लेशयोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहावाद्भिरवाप्यते क्लेशयोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहावद्भिरवाप्यते. Want to repeat, bro? क्लेशयोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहावाद्भिरवाप्यते. What meaning? Klesha, trouble. Adhikatara, very much. Tesham, of them. Avyakta, to the unmanifested. Asakta, attached. Chetasam, of those whose minds. Avyakta, toward the unmanifested. He certainly. Gati, progress. Dukkham, with trouble. Dehavadbhi, by the embodied. Avapyate, is achieved. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. Purport. The group of transcendentalists who allow the path of inconceivable, unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnanis. And persons who are in full Krishna consciousness, engaged in devotional service to the Lord, are called Bhakti Yogis. Now, here the difference between Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga is definitely expressed. The process of Jnana Yoga, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal, is very troublesome, whereas this path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in the direct service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. The individual soul is embodied since the time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. Therefore, the Bhakti Yogi accepts the deity of Krishna as worshipable because there is some bodily conception fixed in the mind, which can thus be applied. Of course, worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His form within the temple is not idol worship. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be saguna or nirguna, of the Supreme possessing or not possessing attributes. Worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship. For the Lord, it is represented by the material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street. If we post our letters on those in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere but which is not authorized by the post office will not do the work. Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archa Vigraha. This Archa Vigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by His incarnation as Archa Vigraha, He can accept the services of the devotee, just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life. So, for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly, but for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads. And they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings and realize these processes. This is not very easy for common man. A person in Krishna consciousness engaged in devotional service simply by guidance of bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances onto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of the foodstuff offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly. A similar passage appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated there that if one ultimately has to surrender onto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti. But instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman, what is not Brahman, and spending his whole life in that way. This result is simply troublesome. Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization, because there is unnecessary in the ultimate result. A living entity is eternally an individual soul. If he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish this realization of the eternal knowledgeable aspect of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized. By the grace of some devotee, such transcendentalists highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble, because he cannot give up the idea. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for the certain that this is unmanifested realization is against the nature of his spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process. For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotion service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore the devotion service, there is danger of turning to atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna. So we will chant Mangalacharan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guraho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Navamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining, and thank you Vaibhav Bro for giving me this opportunity to speak. So this is my first class, and I was spoken before when I was sitting on a Vyasasana. So if I make any mistakes, please forgive me. And yeah, so this chapter is 12th chapter, verse number 5. So here in this chapter, Arjuna asks Krishna that Who are the ones most perfect? Those who worship the personal form or impersonal form? So Krishna here says and gives answer to Arjuna, devotees who worship my personal form, they are the one who will attain me. The previous verses talk about that, Krishna's answers. And he also says the impersonal answer also, that it is very hard to achieve. Very hard efforts are there, but they will attain me, impersonal feature. So the question is, we can take any path, no? अब दो है रास्ता, impersonal is there, personal is there, worship anything, no? So here Krishna explains in this verse, avyakta sakta chetasam, those who are attached to unmanifested form, kleshayo dhikataras tesham, advancement is very troublesome. Avyakta hi gatir dukkham, to make progress in line always difficult. For whom? किसके लिए? देवाहात avyapyate. What is that? Avapyate. For ones who are embodied. So हम कोई भी path चुन सकते हैं, right? We can choose any path. Arjuna's वो हो सकता है ना, like we can choose any path. So Krishna here says that no, you should stay in bhakti. So he explained later on. So Prabhupada gives a very beautiful description that what is the, first of all we have to understand what is Jnana Yogi and what is Bhakti Yogi. Who are Bhakti Yogis? So impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord are called Jnana Yogis, and persons who are in full Krishna consciousness engaged in devotion service to the Lord are called Bhakti Yogis. Prabhupada is very clear about this. So let's make a compare, let's compare and contrast. Why Krishna says that be in bhakti? There must be some reason, right? Why he is very, inclined towards, some people might call him is biased. Okay. So he gives the answer here that the process of Jnana Yoga, Prabhupada mentioned here, although ultimately bringing one to the same goal is very troublesome. Whereas the path of Bhakti Yoga, the process of being in direct service to Supreme Personality of Godhead is easier and is natural for the embodied soul. So embodied soul it is. What is called embodied? What do you mean by embodied? Can anybody answer? What is embodied? Embodied means? Yes, embodied. Those who are stuck in this material world, accepted the body, they are called embodied. So Prabhupada here mentions that Jnana Yoga is unnatural and Bhakti Yoga is natural. How? So we'll understand the individual soul is embodied since time immemorial. It is very difficult for him to simply theoretically understand that he is not the body. हम ऐसे बोल सकते हैं ना कि I'm not a body, I'm not a body, I'm not a body, बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन it's not easy, है ना? So लोग बोलेंगे कि like people would ask like who are you then? Who are you? So later on, so when it comes to Bhakti Yoga, we have a feature or form in mind, we can imagine, because time immemorial, Prabhupada has mentioned that time immemorial, we have been seeing the forms of everything. That's why it is natural. So that's why Prabhupada says that here worshipping the deity form is very easy and natural. So atheistic class of men would say that, oh, you are worshipping this wood, an oil painting wood. It's not a god. Some people, you go out for book distribution, they would ask that, Krishna is everywhere, no, he's all pervading. Why is you have to worship in the temple? Yes, Krishna is everywhere, but he accepts the service in the temple. He reciprocates with the devotee. So Lord is completely spiritual and our senses are material. That we have to understand. So Sri Srimad Govind Swami Maharaj says, this is one of his lectures, he gives a nice analogy that iron rod is there. Iron rod, it's how it is, like by nature it is normal, temperature is normal, right? When he gets the association of fire, that heat get transferred, fire's heat. So when you touch that rod, you'll get heat. Your hand will get burned, right? So same way he explains very beautifully. So same way, like Lord, when we come in touch with him, so we become spiritual, constant touch, with time. So Lord accepts our service in deity form. So the conclusion is here. So Prabhupada gives a very beautiful analogy that our grandparents, like we can say that, take an example in our childhood days, if we have grandfathers, grandparents, then they would use this mailbox to post, चिट्ठी लिखना है, किसी को भेजना है, तो they would use that. अभी तो हम टेलीग्राम आ गया, व्हाट्सएप आ गया, पहले तो वही चलता था. So Prabhupada here mentions that it's a bona fide way. कैसे? कि अभी इंडिया पोस्ट है, like you have India Post. If you want to send some letter to somebody, so you won't directly go and post it on any mailbox, right? So India Post actually authorized some ये box में डालना है. We have to give it to this. We have to post in this box. Then only that letter will go to other person. Okay. The same way here Prabhupada mentioned that why this impersonal feature to realization of the path is difficult. He mentioned the next point. I'll come to that. This Archa Vigra. This Archa Vigra is very natural. Same way. It is bona fide because it is accepted by the acharyas. That's why we have to follow this path. Worshipping the deity, accepting the form of deity. So next is why following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. Why it is difficult? So Prabhupada here mentioned that they have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literature as the Upanishad, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes. This is not very easy to a common man. So it's not easy. Prabhupada is trying to tell that. Say, first of all, if you want to understand the Upanishad, you have to learn the Sanskrit language, right? Ideally, it will take 12 years or more to learn Sanskrit language. After learning the language, you have to sit and understand the Upanishad, scratch your head, break your head, kya hai, and you have to apply those things. And you are not sure that that process will work or not. Kya guarantee hai? So here Acharya has given wonderful literature as Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that it is available in many languages. One doesn't have to learn Sanskrit language. I heard that it is published in Chinese also, Japanese also. So it's very easy that, see, Srila Prabhupada is so merciful that he brought this, whole Krishna conscious movement. It made it very easy. So Prabhupada here again writes here, a person in Krishna consciousness engage in devotion service simply by the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances onto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. Okay, simply Prabhupada uses the word. So one of the lectures I heard from Kartikeya Prabhuji, his spiritual master, he heard from his spiritual master, His Holiness Radha Govind Swami Maharaj, that in Vrindavan, one person, simply by applying the tilak, he went back home, back to God. Meditating on the Om Keshavaya Namaha, one who killed the Keshi demon. That meditation only, he went back home, back to God. Simple meditation. So if we go out on the streets, one person who takes Bhagavad Gita from us, we can ask that person, chant Hare Krishna. He will chant. At that moment, he starts devotional service. From there only begins. One doesn't have to scratch their head. This parampara, they shower mercy upon that person. So Prabhupada here writes, there is no doubt that impersonalists are unnecessary taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble or difficulty, trouble or difficulty approaches the Supreme Personality directly. Okay, so the thing is, there is uncertainty. क्या गारंटी है कि हम वर्शिप पा पाएंगे impersonal ब्रह्म? क्या गारंटी है? One might lose enthusiasm. They'll scratch head, break head, पढ़ने की कोशिश करेंगे उपनिषद, then meditate on impersonal, he'll fall asleep only. So this is not practical. No. So, but in personal feature, one approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a deity form. Simply you can see the Lord, right? He accepted us in Archa. This is Patachitra. But Archa Vigra he also accepts. So, Prabhupada again he writes here, a living entity is eternally an individual soul. If he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspect of his original nature. But the blissful portion is not realized. Amazingly he wrote this thing. So, impersonal feature, there is Sat and there is Chit, but Ananda is missing. Okay, one can realize this thing, eternal, eternal, that I'm eternal, knowledge he has, that is there, but the bliss is missing. So how will one get bliss? Bliss by practicing bhakti yoga. So Krishna again he explains how they can come to the bhakti platform. By the grace of some devotees such as Prabhupada writes here, by the grace of some devotees such as transcendentalists highly learned in the process of jnana yoga may come to the point of bhakti yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also become a source of troublesome because he cannot give up the idea. So even though one gets bumped into this association of devotees, one starts practicing bhakti yoga, बट वो जो पिक्चर रह गया ना, मतलब कि उस चीज़ को एक्सेप्ट करने में इट विल टेक लॉन्ग टाइम, बट बाय द ग्रेस ऑफ स्पिरिचुअल मास्टर वन कैन कम टू दैट प्लेटफॉर्म ऑफ दैट ब्लिस प्लेटफॉर्म. वी सी डिवोटीज जंपिंग, डांसिंग इन Guru Puja also, right? They are experiencing that bliss, you know. So here, so this way we have personal experience that those who come to devotion service by the grace of devotee, it's very difficult to accept the form. ये तो हो गया. So last 2 points, thus I'll read it. Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice, at the time of realization. Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of this his spiritual blissful self. One should not take up the process. For every living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement in devotion service, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotion service, there is the danger of turning into atheism. Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifest, inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, as already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised. So Prabhupada here makes it very clear that it is very dangerous. Why it is dangerous? One can turn into atheism. Atheist ban jayega. Kaise? Eventually, see, in association we also see that when we be in the association of devotees, we get fired up. That fire of doing bhakti, that is there. But impersonalism one has to do alone only, Akele baith ke karna, we have to meditate. So the Prabhupada makes very clear this bhakti yoga is very natural. One should accept this. So it is in the age of Kali, it is impossible. One doesn't try. Abhi dekh lo, corporate mein job karte hain. Kitna time, those who are inclined towards spirituality, how much time they have to spend on these things? So okay. So as of now, since we are practicing bhakti yoga, so we are blissful. We are feeling that bliss. So once we attain Krishna, imagine how much extreme bliss we will feel. So upcoming verses will talk about like this is to intensify the aspect of bhakti. Krishna exclusively speaks about bhakti aspect. So I'll take a pause here if anybody wants to, I want to give some comments or questions. Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity, class. I read in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes that in Brahman there is one experience Sat potency. When he has Paramatma realization, then he experiences Sat and Chit. And at Bhagavan realization, he experiences Sat, Chit and Ananda.
Okay.
Here, like you mentioned, in Brahman also there is Sat and as well as Chit.
Chit.
So knowledge is there in Brahman?
Knowledge is there.
Knowledge after Paramatma realization.
Knowledge is there, Brahman realization में knowledge आता है. That's why Prabhupada writes here in the purport. Otherwise he would have included this, that one has to come to the platform, this, what is that? Which yoga you were talking about? Paramatma realization, that is there.
What would be the difference between Brahman realization and Paramatma realization if the output is same? Like
So Brahman realization, simply you sit on Brahma Jyoti and you experience that, that this one, what is called? Eternity. That I am eternal, I am soul. Ananda is missing in that. But in Paramatma realization is that you realize that God is in my heart. You feel that Paramatma andar mein hai, I have Krishna.
Paramatma realization has more knowledge compared to Brahman realization. And
Yeah. So it's actually a thin line. One can shift to this path also or this path also. This Paramatma realization, one can go ahead. आगे भी जा सकते. Yes.
My question was regarding the output of Brahman process, like he is following that process of Sankhya Yoga and merging to Brahman, like trying to get liberated. Then in that case, the output is, like you said, Prabhupada also mentioned in the purpose that Sat and Chit will both will be there. And in one place, in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada also mentions that Paramatma realization also produces Sat and Chit. So in both of the processes, realization, like Paramatma realization is higher realization than Brahman realization, but still the output is like both have Sat and Chit. Then the Chit in Paramatma realization is more than the Chit in Brahman realization, or what is the difference in Chit? Because such factor to has realized Brahman itself, because he is liberated now. He is not under the time factor.
Okay.
So then what is the difference between the Chit realization of Brahman and Chit realization of Paramatma?
Okay. Brahman realization, what I have understood is that from Bhakti Sastri lecture, there are two types of Brahman realization. One is B1 and another one is B2. B1 realization is that one understands that I'm a soul, and B2 realization is that he sees that okay, so everything is Brahman, sab light chal raha hai, and qualitatively, I am one. That realization is there from Brahman. Paramatma realization is all. I'm just making it clear that one realizes God in his heart. So this is the understanding from this this purport. Yeah. So difference is, that is the difference. Okay. Anybody?
What's the difference between embodiment and manifest?
Manifest. Embodied in the sense, here Prabhupada speaks about the embodied in the sense body. Embodied means soul is stuck in this material body. That is called embodied. And manifest is something which appears. That is the meaning of manifest.
Humans are manifested or embodied?
Humans are they're embodied. Humans actually, spirit soul is inside. Manifestation is actually God actually manifest. He appears. That is there. That's it. Yes, bro.
Though we have read about one pastime where Krishna in his childhood he says that go and worship Govan, go and worship nature, because villagers they will say that we will worship Indra so that we get rain and all these. But Krishna there says that go and worship Govardhan, he is giving us everything and all these things. My doubt is that Krishna here he is saying like this, and Krishna here he has said that this Paramatma form is there, you have to worship this. What is the difference?
So
we should listen to?
Okay, so you have to worship both. You are saying that Govardhan worship, right? So it's none different. We accept when Krishna comes in the form of land, it's called Vraja Bhumi. When he comes in the form of a book, it's called Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. The same way, he manifests in different ways to reciprocate with devotees. That's it. Some people like Krishna to be in 4-handed form. Some people like 2-handed form. That's it. Same way. Some people like to worship, Govardhan. That's it. Both are form only. No? So what Prabhupada from this purport is trying to tell is that we have to worship the form. That's it. Anybody?
One more doubt. Since Prabhupada also mentioned, and the Lord also says that the path of impersonal Brahman realization is very difficult, and there is no guarantee that one will succeed in that path. Then my question is like, why that path is being given in Vedas? Like Vedas also given by Krishna himself, and then why he is actually given this path? He could have just given Bhakti Yoga. He could have just made one path Bhakti Yoga. Why he has made other paths? And like by practicing Bhakti Yoga, if he has to go in Brahman, then he can go in Brahman.
Because
he can easily go in Brahman by practicing Bhakti Yoga.
Correct, but it's about desire.
Yeah, his desire is to go in Brahman. Then he can go in Brahman by practicing Bhakti Yoga, having the desire that he wants to go in Brahman. Then very easily he will attain Brahman compared to the Sankhya philosophy of Sankhya Yoga, which is being prescribed in the Vedas. Then why this path has been like made by God himself? Like, if it is actually very difficult to follow. It's like, what is the intention behind having this path other than Bhakti Yoga? Because realization can be obtained, all realizations can be obtained through Bhakti Yoga. It is not that you get only Bhagavan realization. If you want a Brahman, then you can just be satisfied with Brahman.
Correct.
You will not impose Bhagavan realization on you if you don't desire.
Okay.
Then
He would have made it easy, by directly introducing Bhakti Yoga, right?
yeah, he
That's
could have
what.
given bhakti yoga and he said whatever you desire, and just follow this 9 process of devotional service, Mata Bhakti.
Now with the
And
Bhakti.
whatever you desire, and you will get that fruit. That also very quickly and it will come very naturally.
Correct.
Then why this other Ashtanga Yoga process, Jnana Yoga process, Karma Yoga process is not?
So it's what my understanding is, what I have learned is that it's our desire. If one अभी सड़क में अभी बहुत लोग जाते हैं, for them it's very क्या भक्ति योगा कर रहे हैं आप लोग, it's very बेकार है, it's like outdated thing. Do some कर्म किए जा, फल की इच्छा मत कर, ये सब philosophy वो बोलेंगे. For them to bring to this platform, he has introduced all these things slowly. So भगवद गीता में भगवान भी बोलते हैं ना, बहुनाम जन्मनाम अन्ते ज्ञानमान माम प्रपद्यन्ते वासुदेवम सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभ. After many births, one surrenders onto me and accepts me. So ultimately यही गोल है, सबको यहीं आना है. But the only thing is that it's a living entity's desire. बात ये है, one directly cannot take bhakti. It requires sukriti also. That is also there.
One doubt of you, like why one cannot take bhakti so easily if bhakti is so natural?
Huh?
Bhakti is so natural to the heart and it is very soothing also. Then why it is difficult for majority of the living entities, like Lord also says, Bhuvanam Janmanam
Jnanam prapadyante.
and why it is very difficult for living entities? Because Bhakti Yoga can produce all the results.
All-
By whatever other can produce, they can same can Bhakti Yoga produce along with Bhavan Nirdesh, along
Correct.
with Bhakti.
Uh-huh.
So then why it is difficult for majority of the people?
Why they don't accept this thing? Directly they can accept.
Yeah, Bhakti comes, we can
वो थोड़ा घूम के आना होता है ना उनको, मतलब थोड़ा सा सर्कस करके आएंगे वैसा है. डायरेक्टली थोड़ा सबको वो चाहिए ना, मज़ा चाहिए, मतलब क्रिएटिव वे में करना है सब चीज़. सब थोड़ा वो लेना ओल्ड फैशन. दिस इज ओके.
The whole motto of ISKCON is Krishna consciousness.
हाँ.
Then why you are including other deities like other Narasimha or Saraswati? Means the main aim of creating this Krishna consciousness to make there are so many deities are there. We need to narrow for the one person, that is the supreme one, that is Krishna. Then why you are in the chanting also we are including so many deities that will create again confusion.
So you're talking about many demigods are there, like why
ISKCON means Krishna.
Krishna,
Then why we are seeing other deities?
like Narasimha is there.
Narasimha.
So the thing is, no, it is our parampara which has given some set of things, like worshipping the Narasimha, because he protects our consciousness. He
He
protects.
is the supreme one, right? Krishna.
Yeah.
Worshipping is then is enough.
Hmm.
Then why you are again subdivision?
Not same. If you are worshipping Narasimha also, then it goes to Krishna also. It's about reciprocation. So he appeared. We just glorify
Again
him.
it creates confusion whether I go for this or this or this or this. So that's the one we get confusion whether I go for this temple or whether I go for this temple.
Okay.
That is a confusion.
So it's a desire. It's all up to you. What do you want? you know.
If I want narrow means what?
You want spiritual substance. You want material substance. That is the thing.
Everything is embodied in that.
Which one?
Krishna or the supreme power.
Huh.
You can go directly to.
You can come.
Then
So
why that subdivisions is actually?
So because there are, Bhagavad Gita is mentioned, there are modes of material nature. Modes of goodness, passion and ignorance. Those who are in mode of goodness, they worship those deities which are in mode of, above mode of goodness. Those who are in passion, they worship Durga. Those who are in ignorance, some classification is there. According to their nature, they feel like worshipping.
If the main aim is to break all those classification and make to come to the main point.
Yeah, but people generally cannot
you
know.
mentioned there as ISKCON as Krishna
Consciousness.
You can't mention it as Narasimha consciousness or Durga consciousness or Lakshmi.
That's why we exclusively worship Krishna only, no?
And then why the deities are present in, like if you go for ISKCON temple,
Mhm.
you have separate Garbhagudi spot.
Uh,
If you go,
uh,
you can see right.
Basically, his question is
uh,
out of all the Vishnu avatars,
uh,
Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. From Krishna only, all Vishnu avatars originated.
uh,
Then we can just single-handedly worship Krishna alone,
uh.
rather than worshipping even Narasimha.
Okay,
Means
understood.
Why Parampara Acharyas have given the mode of worship on Narasimha also?
Narasimha also.
Means why
Also,
Srila
there are so
Prabhupada
many
has given.
temples.
Hmm. So the thing is, no, in Tirupati, some people have inclination. Like you can say, if you visit Tirupati, we find Balaji also. And when you go to Pune NVCC, have you visited Pune NVCC? So there Balaji is there. When you go to Pandharpur, there is Vitthal is there. So people generally have an inclination towards specific deities. So with that they have attachment, and with that intention they come to worship Krishna. Some people, if you're born in some family like they worship Balaji, so they have Ishta they like Balaji I'll worship. It's very difficult. For my personally, I'm telling, my mother, she worships Venkateshwara, like Balaji. When I ask her to, Krishna, both are same, but I'm more inclined towards like Balaji. Some affection is there toward form, in that form. See, some people you can see that both Krishna and Rama are same, but you can see many people are inclined towards Ramchandra Bhagavan. Many people are inclined towards Krishna. So it's according to their nature. Nature, one feels that attachment is there. That is
And also in the chant Rama Krishna, why it's mentioned Rama? So Krishna is enough. Krishna is enough, right? Because he is the supreme. Right?
Balaram, not Krishna and Balaram is there.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm
So
Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Krishna is enough, right? Why he included Rama? So again, it's Krishna.
So the thing is, it is coming from Vedic literatures. This Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Ram,
stanza
Ram.
is more enough.
So-
Why again Rama stands in that?
So Rama is, the thing is, it is coming from Krishna only. Everything, this mantra is, we cannot say that
Embodied of Krishna only. So one stanza is enough. Now why is second stanza?
Hare Krishna is enough. You're trying. Why Hare Rama is included?
It's confusion. Rama or Krishna, Krishna or Rama.
No, it's an entire verse given in our Shastra that we have to follow. That's it. So-
See, one thing is like recently we were discussing on this, like someone says, okay, I love Krishna. I want to worship Krishna, I want to go to spiritual mode. But I don't love the cows. Whenever I see cows, I feel regret. Now just think, if you say like that, will Krishna Krishna like your worship? Because we know Krishna is very attached to the cows. If we worship the cows, what will happen? Krishna will get peace. Same way the Krishna's devotee and Krishna's potencies. Like Hare stands for Radha, Ram stands for Balram. These are very close associates of the Lord. They are energies of the Lord. If someone says only Krishna is worship, but I don't care for Radharani, I don't care for Balram, will Krishna be happy by this? No. So we are worshipping only Krishna, and other things we are doing just to please Krishna because Krishna wants. Same way, if I say I don't love cows, I don't love this, I don't love I don't like to read the Gita, but I love Krishna. I'll only worship Krishna. I won't read the Gita. I won't worship, or I won't respect the cows. Krishna won't be pleased. So whatever we do, that is just to please Krishna. Worship is only of Krishna. Other things we include because Krishna will be pleased by it. So ultimate aim should be worship, pleasing the Lord. The Lord has given some standard process. This is how I will get pleased. Same with the devotees. Like we worship Prabhupada. Now you may ask, why we are worshipping Prabhupada? We are worshippers of Krishna. Why we are offering respect to Prabhupada? Because Prabhupada is very close to Prabhupada. He is very dear devotee of God. So if we worship Prabhupada, Krishna will be pleased. Ultimate aim is to please Krishna. But then how to please also, he has told and we are doing that. If he would have said no need to do anything else, we would have done that. So we are following the process which is given, and that process pleases Krishna. Ultimate aim is to, as you are mentioning, to please Krishna. But there is a process and that has to be followed.
Because you have seen there are so many violence between Shaivism and Vaishnavism, Shiva and Vishnu. So like it only is creating so many, like Rama and Krishna, so we are facing that kind of one who loves Rama doesn't like Krishna. Because they are opposite.
That is all because people don't understand it.
So again it creates disturbance, not confusion. Why is mentioning Krishna and Rama both? We can mention only Krishna consciousness. Krishna should be there. Why you are taking Rama? That's what my question. And now whatever the answers you are doing, I am not satisfied.
That basically then you have to read the scriptures because scriptures will understand.
Because my question you understood right.
Yeah, understand why people are understand.
But
It's
including all other deities. Because you have showed one Krishna, then why you are again adding a substitute title. So
One more answer, final answer. Hare Krishna Maha
good. ग्रंथराज भगवद गीता की श्रील प्रभुपाद की
Thank you for the nice class. So we'll all pray for Pankaj Pr first time he is giving the class.
थैंक यू
So we will keep on giving more and more classes and be more and more a part of it.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Jai. Thank you all for sitting.